Come on in, sit back and relax. You're listening to the Wealth Tech Today podcast. I'm your host, Craig Iskowitz, founder of Ezra Group Consulting. And this podcast features interviews, news, and analysis on the trends and best practices all around wealth management technology. My guest for this episode was Raakhee Miller, CTO at Siebert Financial. We spoke about what's behind the firm's drive for modernization, their differentiated tech strategy, their build versus buy decision framework, and advice for new CTOs. And speaking of new CTOs, if you're running a wealth management firm where the technology decisions used to fall to whoever drew the short straw, and now you've grown to the point where that doesn't cut it anymore, I want to tell you about a terrific offering at Ezra Group. We call it our fractional CTO service, or Fracto. Fracto can support your current CTO on specific projects or help build a technology strategy if you don't have a CTO. So we can help if your ops team is drowning in manual workarounds just to keep the lights on, or you just made an acquisition, but now you've got 2 CRMs, 3 custodians, and nobody knows which system is the source of truth. That's where we come in. Fracto puts Ezra Group's senior consultants in your corner on a monthly retainer. We can help manage your vendors, design new CRM workflows your advisors will actually use. We can fix your integrations, clean up the data, and execute the projects that have been sitting on the back burner for years. If you want to free up your firm for exponential growth, you need to run, not walk, to our website, ezragroup.com, and click the golden Contact Us button on the homepage to schedule a free consultation. We know what works and what doesn't. And now my standard housekeeping chores. Please subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure to check out our sponsor, the Invest in Others charitable foundation at investinothers.org. And if you are a software vendor in the wealth management space, please make sure to register your product with our Wealth Tech Integration Score vendor portal at ezragroup.com/register so that your product's Wealth Tech Integration Score will always be up to date. Now, let's kick this thing off. All right, I'm excited to introduce our next guest. It's Raakhee Miller, CTO at Siebert Financial. Raakhee, thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, especially this time of year, to talk to people and the holidays. How are your holidays going?
Great. Made a good turkey, so that's always good.
Nice. My favorite. I'm still eating stuffing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a big stuffing fan, so I like extra stuffing.
Yes.
I'll be eating it for days. I'm still doing it. Excellent. And where are you calling from, Raakhee?
From New York.
We're so close. I'm in New Jersey. We should have done this in person.
Yeah, I know.
Next time.
Next time
we're going to meet and do it in person. But since now we're apart and on Zoom, why don't we jump in and give us the 30-second elevator pitch for Siebert Financial?
Yeah, well, Siebert Financial is one of the pioneering legacy firms in U.S. finance. It was founded by Muriel Siebert, whose name we honor, and she was the first woman to own a seat on the New York Stock Exchange back in '67. And so we've been a member of NYSE longer than any discount broker in operation today. That's a milestone for us. We operate on a couple of core pillars, our business lines, including retail brokerage, wealth management, which we also call Siebert Next, and our corporate services business, which includes equity compensation, plan administration, and other corporate services around those needs. So as president of technology, I oversee the entire tech ecosystem that powers each of those business lines, from the client-facing platforms down to our trading infrastructure. We've recently added Siebert Pro, which is our infrastructure for professional traders, which is a really exciting project that I started and now have launched in my tenure here at Siebert.
That's excellent. And you kind of glanced, you provided a little bit of background on Siebert, on Muriel Siebert, but when I was coming into the industry, she was still a big name.
Mm-hmm.
And, I happened to do some research on her back in the day and was very impressed. And, but at that time, it was unheard of for a woman to even be on the floor of the exchange. I've worked on multiple exchanges as an intern, growing up. So you never saw a woman on the floor, except maybe as a secretary. So seeing a woman who had her own firm was groundbreaking.
Yeah, she paved her own way.
Mhm.
And we all ride on the shoulders of giants, as they say.
We all do, exactly. And I think more people should know about her and do a little reading on her. Unfortunately, she passed away about 10 years ago. But yeah, she was awesome. So let's talk about your tech stack because this is a tech podcast. Can you give us a quick overview of just the main systems you guys are using?
We have a combination of homegrown and vendor systems, but primarily we have all of our client-facing technologies that we own and run, and essentially our services architecture incorporates a hybrid of vendor and homegrown services. Um, and then we are looking more and more at the cloud. A lot of our core services run on the cloud. But on the back end, we do have some, key vendors that we still use.
Excellent. So we're always seeing, we talked to a lot of RIAs, and of course, it's a constant process of modernization. When you're successful, like a firm like Siebert is, by definition, your technology is going to become legacy, right? Because you've been around a while, and it just starts to get older, and it's in inertia. So, what was the original push for this round of modernization of your tech stack?
Yeah, I think, at this stage of where technology is and innovation is, modernization is not just an attractive buzzword. It really is existential. Firstly, like client expectations have like fundamentally shifted, right? Everyone's expecting real-time everything, instant account opening, immediate funding, uh, execution visibility, metrics, mobile first experiences. So, our legacy infrastructure and a lot of firms of our tenure have infrastructure that was built when the world was still, T+2 settlement, and that's, moving fast. Secondly, the competitive landscape really forces our hand, and it has intensified only more dramatically as the years have passed. Fintechs have come in over the last, decade and unbundled what have been traditional broker services. Call it Robinhood or others in this sphere. And so now we're not just competing on price. We're like it's a race to the bottom. So we need technology as a lever to improve and maintain quality. Just relying on legacy systems alone will not cut it. And third is I think a phrase I'm sure that most of your listeners will be unfortunately very, very familiar with is tech debt, right? It becomes a compounding liability every year. When you have systems that don't talk to each other, manual processes that create ops risk, and you have patch quilt of vendors and relationships that you need to manage, the status quo of maintaining that becomes higher and higher. So, at the end of the day, the cost of keeping status quo, when that becomes more than the cost of doing the transformation, that's when you
Mhm.
start seeing the acceleration, to that. And, finally, at the end of the day, we have a brand heritage, as you pointed out with Muriel Siebert. She did something nobody even heard of, right? And we right now, as part of our fabric, are really focused on democratizing finance, and we want to be the pioneers for people and their access to wealth management. And without technology innovation, our messaging, our brand, our what we stand for will be undermined. And so, we have to come together to make this work with the newer
Mhm.
technology.
Yeah, you mentioned how a lot of the tech stacks were built during T+2, which seems a long time ago, but it was just 2017 when T+2 came out, right? People don't realize the original SEC settlement cycle was 5 business days,
Can
five,
you
T plus
imagine?
five, right? Can you imagine that, right? Imagine waiting for that, waiting for a settlement. And then I think when I think a long time ago. So I'd been out of college for a while. Then T+3 came out in '93, right? So it's already 30 plus years ago that we had T+3 was the rule for 25 years, right? Now T+2 in 2017, now T+1 just 7 years later. So our cycles are getting increasingly faster in increasingly shorter amounts of time. So that puts a lot of pressure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's going hand in hand with customers' expectations of, I did a trade, I want to see my money in my account, and
Mhm.
now you throw in blockchain and other innovations of the last decade, and these are all possibilities right now.
Mhm. Yeah, or money transfer. I want when I do a transfer, I want the money in my account the next day.
Exactly.
Why not same day? I can do it with
Yep.
Bitcoin, right? It takes 10 minutes. Why can't I get my cash out of my account the same day, which is, it's impossible. But hopefully soon, T plus zero, right? Then that's the next step.
Yep.
All right. So we talked about strategy, we talked about history, we talked about um, your tech stack. So everyone's got similar roles. Every firm, we're all doing the same thing here, but we have to differentiate. So when it comes to the technology side on Siebert, how does it differentiate from your competitors?
So, I think that the perhaps the goals sometimes are not as differentiated because I think people have similar goals. We're focused on really more of a composable architecture. And I think for the longest time, many tech leaders have been focused on moving to API first, services based modular architecture instead of like monolithic systems, building out services that can be assembled and reconfigured and scaled independently. I think those are all in that particular strategy. I don't think we're alone or differentiated. But I think it's kind of our approach to it at this point. We are, leveraging like AI isn't like a bolt-on. We're embedding it into our architecture as we're attempting to build out these things, whether it's in our design and UX cycles, whether it's in our test development and entire sort of SDLC cycle. We're also very focused on data driven first. So here the key word is intelligence, right? Which means are the data that we have, we treat it as a first class asset. So every interaction, every transaction, every client behavior is a signal. And we're focused on building our architecture to capture, unify, and really activate our data and have that be a driver for our roadmap and for our architecture needs, as well as obviously, operational efficiency. So that's, I think, a approach-oriented differentiator. Whereas, I think that the goals for many organizations are same. They're still doing things the same way that they were doing them 10 years ago, 6 years,
Hmm.
5 years ago. I mean, the world 5 years ago and now is completely different. And
Indeed.
that gap gets, it's the hockey stick, right? It just keeps going,
Hmm.
climbing higher and higher. Finally, I think for us, we are more focused on human augmentation, I think.
Hmm.
Um, so unlike sort of pure robo advisors, fully self-directed platforms, our bet is that the future is going to be more hybrid, where, tech amplifies our advisors, our clients, our service providers, our internal service. But at the core of it, we are still focused on relationship building and nuanced advice and complex problem solving. But we want to just automate away the repetitive, the transactional, and we want to focus on personalization. Um, and I think when I look at some of our peers and what they're doing, there's a lot of focus on modernizing front end while the back end kind of remains fragmented. Hamster behind the wheel, that still continues. So we are focused on modernizing end to end. Because sort of a beautiful mobile app that's still connected to a system that was built in the 80s and runs on the mainframe, like that's not going to last. So I think we're focused on end to end and all our processes and ensuring that the way in which we are approaching these end goals of modularity or data intelligence or AI is embedded into our process.
You said a couple of things I wanted to call out. One, you said you're treating your data as a first class asset. Love to hear that. We did a series of webinars last year on data, which is called data as an asset,
Mm.
because a lot of firms don't realize that. They don't think of it. They just think of it as plumbing. Okay, we just need the
Yep.
data. That's it. We don't think of it as something we should leverage. And how do we generate more revenue on it? How do we be more efficient with it? So I love to hear that it's an asset. But you mentioned something else. Talk about composable architecture. Could you maybe expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, and I think composable, modular, like the ability to take a process or a problem set and break it down into parts that could be leveraged, right? So whether it's certain types of calculations, certain type of data handling, certain type of exception management, we are looking at how to, if you think about in sort of more object-oriented I'm geeking out on like just real basic stuff
That's
here.
what this is about.
Yeah,
Raakhee.
if you
We're a
think
tech
about
podcast.
yeah, so what are the objects that run our business, right? I think it's really thinking about it at a very, very high level and then implementing that high level concept at the most granular level, right? And can it's not achievable for everything because there's a cost of over analyzing and not getting to market fast enough, but there is, I think, enough in the in between for us to think about how can certain services be thought of as reusable, composable, like composable activities that can be reused in different parts of our business, different workflows, etc.
So I want to talk about your role. You've been at Siebert for not quite 2 years,
Hmm.
and you've got a great resume. You were over a decade at Goldman, some time at Morgan Stanley. How did that experience and that you were working in derivative operations, prime brokerage, equity swaps? So that's very different from the role you're in now, but clearly a high pressure environment, high expectations for everyone. How did that shape and change the way you approach this job?
Yeah, I think, I go back to I go back to the simplicity of really just where's the friction that drives where the client pain is, and it's always been working backwards. you know the friction is either in some kind of operational cost or risk or client pain, unhappiness. So I think the goal has always been across all of these roles to like seek out that problem, really prioritize it well, which I know it sounds simple, but it in a large, complex organization with many layers, political things going on. It can be, it could be a skill that makes or breaks most tech professionals, right? But I
Hmm.
think at the end of it, it's really articulating and finding data that supports your argument around where the frictions are, where the pain point is. And then working backwards to that. And I think for most parts, I think if that process is done in a robust manner, and there is organizational support, which generally comes when you have data and good information to present to your stakeholders. You're then given mandates to fix the problem, and then what happens magically when you fix these problems, they don't exist anymore and things get
Hmm.
easier or better or less risky. Clients are generally happier, and those all, in the long run contribute to the ROIs, right? So and then I think that's the flywheel effect then at that point, and you get more, and you do more, you see more benefits, etc.
Although sometimes fixing the problems only expose more problems, and the clients aren't happy because they go, "Oh, I didn't realize now that's fixed. Now, but what this?"
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. No, I think that that's a risk, but also maybe a ticking time bomb because
mhm.
if you don't focus on fixing it, then it might come and manifest in a time
Mhm.
that is going to cost
Oh,
you regulatory issues
mhm.
or bigger client issues, right?
Of course, I wasn't saying don't fix it, but I'm saying that sometimes your clients, whether they're internal or external, are never happy.
That is true. The business always wants it yesterday, and the clients are
Hmm.
never happy. But
So,
I think that there's a relative sense here, right? I think as long as your services are giving them the value, I think the value matters more than issues at certain points.
hopefully. So
Mhm.
let me ask you a question that I get asked a lot. So how do you decide? You mentioned your tech stack has a mix of in-house developed applications and off the shelf products. How do you decide which capabilities to build in house versus buying slash renting from a vendor?
Yeah, and I think mainly it's really three core questions, right? First is this capability core to our competitive advantage? So, if it's something that we believe clients choose us for, right? And this, it's very important to know your identity. We are retail brokerage. We have our wealth management. So we really want to focus on knowing our clients. And if something is a core competitive capability of ours, we want to own it. So we want to build it in-house, or we want to acquire. And so a lot of our client experience layers, our advisor tools, and our data intelligence, like that's ours to own, right? Because that gives us the most roadway to improve, to really further excel, to extend the gap between us and our competitors, and to really, again, underscore the value that we're providing our customers. The second is like, if it's a commodity, or it's more of a, hey, you can't do market data is, one example, right? Market data feeds or basic order routing or standard sort of compliance reports. These are commodities, right? Vendors have the type of scales and economics that we just can't match. So we're not trying to build like and maybe, I think if we do our jobs right, maybe eventually we'll become a vendor and pitch these services back out to the market. But we're not in that business right now. We want to rent commodities and make sure they're the best in breed, negotiate hard on price. So those are kind of our second tier thing. And then, third is probably like this hybrid, again, this partnership model. So there are vendors out there who we would want to partner with to accelerate our roadmap, right? So there is a balance of build versus partner sometimes, and sometimes it's core to what do we want to achieve in our roadmap and what timeframes we want to achieve those in. And sometimes partnerships, like certain fintechs with specialized capabilities, or a particular custodian with infrastructure that we just don't want to replicate at this point due to investment and costs. So those partnership structures are important. But even with that, we always try to maintain a lens of optionality. We'd never want to be so dependent on a partner that they just control our destiny. Like that's always been an anchoring kind of North Star for us. So in practice, basically, we run, and I think like most firms run a hybrid model, in-house innovation for stuff that gives us our core competency, a best of breed kind of infrastructure for vendors that are commodities, and partners that help us accelerate our roadmap.
That's excellent. You had mentioned earlier you're embedding AI into your architecture. Can you expand on that and talk about some of the use cases that you are seeing that are delivering the strongest ROI?
Yeah, absolutely. So at this point, I think the where we focused AI on, like I mentioned earlier, is part of it is in our development process itself. And so we leverage AI heavily as a co-pilot in the development teams for, again, doing automated testing or setting up automated testing pipelines, data analysis, anomaly detection, focusing on dealing less with paper. So, in terms of account opening and dealing with documents, doing like more document extractions and things like that. Those are areas in which we are finding that there's a good ROI in terms of efficiency. So I think at this point, like we're not looking to do here's a fully automated here you go. No like autonomous AI advisors. AI replaces every single person. Like that's not the focus right now for us. We're being pragmatic, and we're looking at it as an efficiency augment, so that we can take something that takes a long time, including from the point of view of the developers, not just the business, and try to embed AI into those. So more co-pilots like client intelligence and in those those types of areas. Marketing, CRM, that's another area in which we've leveraged AI a lot. There's amazing tools out there for creatives, and we are definitely dipping our toe in AI when it comes to content marketing and embedding it into our customer acquisition side of things as well.
Terrific. Do you have any specific AI tools you can talk about? Which ones you like? Which ones you're seeing the most traction in your firm?
I mean, we're like experimenting with various like LLM models, like most, right?
Mhm.
And we're building in terms of tools, I think we're probably more low level leveraging LLMs and embedding them into our tool sets, right? So our developers like use Copilot and those types of
Mhm.
things. Obviously, in terms of the marketing side of things, there's banana like there's like so many of these tools out there that
Mhm.
we're opening up the doors for our departments to experiment with. But like a lot of our core stuff is still tied to leveraging LangChain and other types of products like that, as well as various LLMs and really fine tuning what we're doing with those tools.
All right, we are almost out of time. I have one more question I'm going to squeeze in.
Yes.
For other CTOs who are taking over a new role, coming to a new firm like you did a year and a half ago, what's some advice? What's the best advice you can give them to be able to hit the ground running and be productive in their first year and a half?
I still think this is a relationship. Um, Technology is a very interesting area to be in. I think, and I've worked with and for a lot of really brilliant people. And I think the areas in which I've seen people come in and really hit the ground running and provide an impact, are those that can um, focus on not technology for technology's sake, but just kind of have really the North Star of I want to understand and learn where this business has problems. And every firm is different. I've worked at many, and I think the core problems for them at a high level might be the same, but when you dig down into it, where are the real problems? And also, where are the cultural problems, right? Because I think sometimes issues are there because and just going and being a bull in a china shop to change things sometimes doesn't work out, right? So I think that
Sometimes,
sometimes, yeah.
a lot.
And so you need to have a keen understanding of people and culture and
Mhm.
the problems. And it is it is a finessing type of job because even though you
Mhm.
know what the right solution is, if you're not bringing everyone with you, it's going to be a short-lived
Mhm.
either a short-lived tenure or it's going to be impossibly stressful and just honestly no fun, right? You can't just be the only one like fighting, and
Mhm.
nobody gets what you're doing or understands. So, sometimes doing that is kind of a slower start, but I think over time, at least I've found that that strategy works really well. So, even though our roles are technology enhancement, it is a lot about people and culture and bringing people around, or like along with us on the ride.
Rocky, you said it all here. Where can people who are listening find out more about Siebert Financial?
Siebert.com, please go there. Part of another part of my one of my duties was our rebrand. So it's a pretty nice looking rebrand. So please do check it out and check out our services.
Excellent. Thanks so much for being here, Rocky. I really appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's Craig again, and here are my top three takeaways from this episode. One, Siebert Financial is modernizing its technology stack to meet evolving client expectations and stay competitive with a focus on composable architecture, data as a first class asset, and human augmented AI. Two, Rocky's experience at large banks like Goldman Sachs has shaped her pragmatic, data driven approach to identifying and solving core business problems while also navigating organizational culture and politics. Three, when taking on a new CTO role, the best advice is to first deeply understand the firm's key pain points and challenges rather than rushing to implement technology solutions. It's about people and culture as much as it is about the tech. Congratulations, you've reached the end of another episode of the Wealth Tech Today podcast. But before you go, please head over to our website, ezragroup.com, scroll to the bottom of the homepage and sign up for our newsletter. Once a month, you'll receive an email full of wealth management goodness, news, information, and updates. You will not be disappointed. Thanks again for listening, and talk to you all again next time.